We'd like to call to order the April 9th meeting of the Clive City Council. Will the clerk please call roll?
Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Council members Weaver.
Here.
Judkins.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Hawker.
Here.
Gasparotto.
Here.
Very good. Would you all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm not aware of any changes in the agenda.
Move approval. Second.
Motion second on the agenda. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Next up, we have citizens presentation. This is the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda. If we have anyone in the chambers, please approach the podium, and Pete will check to see if there's anyone online.
For those online, you can get our attention in the chamber using the raise hand function on your Zoom screen. At the bottom of that screen, there's a react little heart. You can click on that and you should be able to select raise hand. Your Honor, I do not see any hands going up.
Thank you very much, Pete. And just reminding everyone here, we support the pillars of character counts and expect everyone to follow those in a respectful manner. First up tonight, we have a Bravo presentation. Sally?
Good evening. Thank you all so much for your time. We are exceptionally grateful to partner with the City of Clive and always appreciate a few minutes on your very busy agenda to share updates about how things are going and what we're up to. I do especially want to thank Councilmember Judkins, who serves as your representative on the Bravo board. I also want to recognize Kim Perez, who is here. She is a Clive resident. She is also a member of the Bravo Board of Directors, and she is the CEO of the Greater Des Moines Botanical Gardens, one of our largest cultural partners. Also really want to give a shout out to the Clive staff, especially Matt and Pete, who are great partners and good, thoughtful leaders for your community and for the region. So thank you both. Appreciate you for your time as well. I'm going to run through this relatively quickly, but please do jump in if you've got any questions for me. There are some new faces around your table. So just as a brief refresher, Bravo has been serving as the region's Arts Council since 2004. Basically, we see our role as making sure that arts and culture are aligned with everything the region is trying to achieve. Our model is relatively simple. We have individual agreements with 16 cities and Polk County, and we leverage hotel motel taxes from those communities in a regional strategy to broadly support arts, culture, and community. This funding, the hotel motel tax funding, makes up 95% of Bravo's annual revenue, and we are intentionally built to rely on this single revenue stream. We don't do additional fundraising, both because we don't want to compete with the organizations we were formed to support, and because that helps us keep our administrative costs low. It costs money to raise money, and we want to make sure that we're putting those dollars directly into the community. We are governed by a 37-member board of directors that includes one representative from every community that's investing in Bravo. So you always have a voice at our table. And it's important that we are built that way because we have always existed as a regional entity. We are always trying to balance our charge in serving local community needs with broader metropolitan priorities. And that's really integral to the success. Even though our charge has always been broad, grant making has always been our primary tool for delivering on our promise. And Bravo, of course, meets a need for best practice, transparent regional investment of public funds. As a reminder, prior to Bravo, many cities were already investing in arts and culture. We didn't create that pathway, but what we did is we created an efficiency. Before Bravo, each city was considering investments, processing those investments, managing those investments, and then evaluating those investments. And then unfortunately, you had to start again right away the next year. This took an incredible amount of city time and resources, staff and council and money, and it required separate strategies for each individual communities. So if we were to go back to that model, instead of one presentation from me, you could have 59 presentations from the current Bravo cultural partners that report significant impact to Clive residents. Through Bravo, we take care of all of that administrative work for you. It relieves your council from having to do that. And it also relieves each of you from having to make decisions directly about organizations that are led by your neighbors, your families, and your friends. General operating support for nonprofit organizations accounts for the majority of Bravo's annual investments. And as I said, this year we're investing in 83 organizations located in 11 of our 17 communities. We understand that many of these organizations are not well known outside their individual community, but they are all meeting unique individual needs and provide critical pathways for local engagement that's close to home. These vibrant local organizations, we believe, are essential to a vibrant region and are a critical pathway for us to provide direct funding back to our local government partner communities. But we also understand that our investment in the large regional organizations is critical. These are, of course, the premier assets that a region really only needs one of to provide those world-class experiences. I can tell you for a fact that attendees are not especially motivated by what community a cultural asset is located in, but we know that you sometimes are. And I want to be clear that if Bravo only focused on those large regional entities, those that we would describe as larger budgets over $1 million, it means we would only be able to support organizations in 3 of our 17 communities. Again, we do understand that those regional entities require, they're the ones that are the most likely to be driving hotel motel taxes. They're the most likely to be drawing audiences from across the region, which is why they are already receiving more than 70% of the total investments Bravo is making. But we do believe that the balance between local and regional investing is a priority, and we do that with intention. Again, as I said, Bravo serves as a regional entity. We were not built to track local impact, and a dollars in, dollars out measure is not reflective of the true value of our partnership. In fact, we know that more than 600,000 Metro residents crossed municipal boundaries last year to engage in the region's vibrant cultural offerings supported by Bravo. I can also tell you that for every single 28E partner, resident participation in Bravo-funded organizations closely tracks with community size. However, I do understand that your job is local data. And last year, Bravo made direct investments in the city of Clive through a public art grant for more than $11,000. We know that the West Des Moines Community School District got a Passport to Culture investment of more than $17,000 to support youth arts experiences. And the city of Clive was recently awarded a local arts and culture program grant for a little bit more than $6,000 to support local programming coming up in your community this year. Clive residents do also benefit from investments that Bravo makes outside of the city limits. We know that more than 23,400 tickets were sold to Clive residents to participate in paid programming across the region, and an additional 7,956 free programs were accessed by Clive residents last year. Student engagement was also high, with more than 3,160 Clive students accessing programs funded by Bravo and across the region. I hope that these numbers clearly demonstrate that Bravo's regional investment strategy does have direct influence and benefit to the residents of Clive. We know the legislature is continuing conversations about property tax reform, and we do understand that that puts tremendous pressure on our local government partners. I do want to express, as your community conversations continue, please know that Bravo has virtually no ability to replace any lost hotel motel tax revenue. And the organizations that Bravo is supporting are already generating the vast majority of their funding from other sources, individual, foundation, or corporate. So finding any new funding to backfill lost support from Bravo is very unlikely. This means that any reductions in investment through Bravo will likely reduce the availability of accessible and affordable programs and engagement opportunities for your residents. It will also increase competition for available funds. These organizations will not stop asking, they will just come directly to you. That said, we take our role as your partner seriously. You are not an ATM, and we do not get to assume direct funding annually every year without doing our part to support policies that make that continued funding possible. The unfortunate news is we do not have a lobbyist and we are not especially influential. However, we did produce a one-page summary that was hopefully included in your packets about the ways that arts and culture are tied to key state and regional priorities and what these potential cuts would mean to those stated priorities. As I said, hopefully it was in your packet tonight. We have also distributed that to the Iowa League of Cities, the Technology Association of Iowa, the Iowa Business Council, the Greater Des Moines Partnership, IEDA. Basically, anyone who will make eye contact with me has a copy of that document. And a key talking point on that is that the current cultural ecosystem is generating approximately $31 million in local and state tax revenues. This is an exceptionally high ROI on an extremely efficient model that is working for the state to advance many of these priorities. We are very proud of the way we've efficiently and effectively leveraged the investments over the last 20 years and are eager to tell that story to anyone who will listen. I try to keep these presentations brief. This last slide is just to say there are many ways for you to learn more about the great things Bravo is doing beyond our grant making and in addition to our administrative efficiency. Again, I do want to thank you for your continued partnership. We take our role very seriously. We're grateful for the work that we get to do in collaboration. Again, I want to thank Councilmember Judkins and the staff of Clive and our cultural partners and residents of the city for joining us tonight. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Sally? Ted?
Well, thanks, Sally. You're a worthy and passionate advocate for Bravo, so I applaud you for that. There's clearly an ROI, in my opinion, with directly to Clive for our funds invested. With that said, as you know, there's a lot of pressure down at the State House, and we're going to be looking at some challenges in the future. Looking at your coverage map, have you guys looked at expanding places like Cumming, Adel, Granger, Huxley? I mean, as a realtor, I see a lot of these communities really growing pretty fast.
Yep.
And where the dollars may not be there today, in 5 years, they may be more substantial.
Yep.
So are you guys looking at doing any type of expansion like that?
So we have looked at that, and there are a number of ways to measure the return on that investment. Right now, you're right, there's not a lot of hotels there. And so the revenue coming in would not be significant at this time in those communities. Conversely, we believe that any partner that would be joining us would be seeking the same direct benefit that we offer to all of our other partners. So for example, they might be applying for public art grants or for programming grants. Even though they're not putting revenue in, they might be expecting revenue out. So it's possible that that would put us on the wrong side at the wrong time to have us have more dollars going out to cities that are not contributing revenue.
Sure.
But we do have a formula. We do reevaluate. We do look at who those cities might be. Another concern that we have is our ability to serve additional communities. We are currently a staff of 4 and administrative, wanting to make sure that we're serving every community in Bravo. We would want to make sure that we weren't spreading our staff too thin. So we have looked at that, and I'm happy to share the formula. Right now, it hasn't risen. We've had the conversation, and our board has decided that now is not the right time. But we are watching that growth carefully.
Yeah, and that's fair. Are you talking to those community development staffs at all to see what may be coming down the line? Because again, some of those communities are growing pretty fast.
Yes. Yes, those communities are growing fast. No, we are not in active conversations with those community development leaders, and certainly something we can think
Yeah,
about.
it might be something to look at.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Sally, I see that, Polk County is a significant partner of Bravo. Have you guys worked with Dallas County at all, or has there been any interest there, or what are you getting feedback from Dallas County and Adel?
We have not, again, expanded into Dallas County. We actually just ran those numbers a couple of weeks ago as we are doing our budgets. We have to wait for you all to do your budgets, and then we can do our budgets. And we just looked at Dallas County. There's not a ton of incorporated, there's not a lot of hotels. Again, there's not going to be a lot coming in by incorporating with Dallas County. And the concern is, are we on the right side of being able to serve that. So that would be the question. We think we capture, because we do have Waukee and West Des Moines, we think we're capturing a lot of what's available now in terms of the revenue coming in, and certainly something we can continue to explore.
But with Waukee, West Des Moines, Urbandale, and Clive, you've got significant growing portions, 70% of Dallas County, but that's something to keep an eye on, along with Ted's notions that it is fast growing and there might be opportunity to partner up and offer collaboration down the road.
It's a great point, and we should be cultivating those conversations now. Chances are none of them are going to be interested in giving up a portion of their hotel motel taxes any more than it's always an appealing conversation for you all. But it's great to develop the relationships. Appreciate the note.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Sally? Do you have a presentation plan for Altoona?
I do not.
I won't delve into that further then. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sally.
Next up, we have the West Des Moines Community School District, Dr. Adams and School Board.
Pete's coming up. Coming up, that's what you're out. Just
This space bar. Perfect. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for giving us some time. I'm looking at Ted. I remember Ted 4 years ago, brand new superintendent, West Des Moines Community Schools. And I looked at the city council and I said, we've got to have a better relationship. We've got to have a better partnership. And it's something that I'm willing to invest in, and something that Matt's been willing to invest in, really to the point we were having so much fun, Matt, that we started inviting elected officials to come join us in the meetings. Tonight, I have Elizabeth Larson, Board President, and Kurt Subra, CFO, with me. And we're going to just share some updates with you, some pinch points, if you will, that we're having as it relates to the finances in schools, as well as some celebrations, and then talk a little bit about our partnership with you as well. And I think what I'd say, when I look at our district mission, I think about educating and inspiring and empowering lifelong learners. I'm going to include you in on this conversation. The relationship that we've actually developed with you over the last 4 years really inspires us, from the school side. The level of engagement that the city of Clive has shared with us in relation to our two schools, Indian Hills and Crestview, is really nothing short of, I've said, textbook. It needs to be put in a textbook. This is how that kind of relationship should develop. I just look at the people that are sitting in the tables behind us and the impact that they've had as it relates to the support of our schools has been absolutely fantastic. And so I told Chief that he'll probably see a picture of himself here later in the presentation. He was really excited to hear that. I want to do just a really quick recap because I think it's something worth lifting up. Considering the commitment that we made, both from the city side and the school district side, and what's happened in the last year. The first, our signature project, the Welcome Back Bash with Crestview, we are already planning for the third annual. And I will tell you, it was really hot. Well, Eric, you remember that? It was hot. It was a little warm. I felt bad for the goats, but they were still a hit, and it was really warm. But to see hundreds of families gather and get excited about the beginning of a school year, to be able to touch a fire truck, to meet the police chief, to be able to see city officials, the goats, the teachers, it's just a fantastic event. So if you haven't been able to come to that, it's scheduled for, help me out, Matt, it's August 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere around there. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. First Friday of August.
First Friday in August.
First Friday in August. The second thing that I would like to lift up about this relationship, because to be perfectly frank, I don't think I can overstate it, the type of relationship that we believe we have with you. At the Iowa Associations of School Boards last November, we actually did a presentation. We had former council member McCoy and Matt McQuillan with us. And we had we explained, we shared with other school districts about this relationship. We did a presentation. And when that got over, other school districts, and Matt knows this, were coming up to us saying, tell me more about that. Tell me how you're doing that. How do you get that started? How does this happen? And I think it was Mayor Edwards last year that said, we just need to get a couple mats together. I think that's what you shared with my board last year. And it really does require a commitment from both sides. And so to be able to share with other school districts a model for what could possibly be from the city of Clive and the school district was really important to us. So those are two things I really wanted to lift up when I think about the relationship we have with you. I'm going to turn it over. I think it's important. We want to be very transparent and discuss the financial challenges that we're going to be facing the next couple of fiscal years, no different than what you're facing. And so Kurt Zuber is here to kind of talk about enrollment and SSA and just implications of all that as it relates to our school district. So I'm turning over to Kurt.
Thank you, Matt. Just a few topics. We're not even going to touch on all of them, but I'll just make a brief comment on the second two bullet points: property tax uncertainty and unfunded mandates. Those aren't new for schools, and certainly are not foreign to your team here at City of Clive. But I just want to acknowledge that we both have circumstances that are impacted by those two elements. A couple of charts here. One is again, one thing I want to explain is school funding is really tied to our enrollment. So, but the other key factor when we think about our general fund, it's tied around the amount of money per pupil and the growth in that number per pupil that changes over time. And you can see here for the last decade and a half, the highest was 4%. It averages really more around 2%. And that's what the legislature has approved for fiscal 27. So 2% growth in the per pupil. Keep in mind though, if enrollment drops 2%, that means you just hold your own. And so as we have inflationary pressures, just like you do, that means we have to think about how we're going to balance that budget, because again, the revenue is not growing. So then how do we pay for costs that are growing? The other item I wanted to mention here on this slide, and you can see it in the smaller graph, is educational savings accounts. This is the third year with the private funding vouchers. And the reason you see such a ramp up there is the first 2 years, they were tied to income and eligibility. In the current year, there was no income limits. So what we saw were a lot of families that were already in private school, but they weren't receiving the vouchers until now. And those vouchers are worth about $8,000 per student. And so now we've got over 1,300 of our resident students that are attending an accredited non-public school, and those voucher dollars are going to those families. Statewide, that's about $350 million, I believe, of the state budget. So it's a very, very heavy commitment at a statewide level. An element that's somewhat unique to schools in Iowa, but there's an aspect when your enrollment is dropping and the revenue from the state formula is not growing as fast. You get in a situation where the state will promise for that next year, it's a 1-year promise, that your regular budget will grow by 1%, and then it kind of resets itself the next year. So when that happens, you're on what they call the budget guarantee. So just to get to 1% new revenue next year, we need 1.57 million to get to that 1% growth. But that's historically always been a property tax levy that we have to issue. And for the first time, I think ever since this formula has been around, the state has decided to fund that at least for 1 year to take pressure off of property taxes. And they're going to move that $42 million statewide to state funding. But we are in West Des Moines schools, of that 42 million statewide, 1.57 million of that is related to our school district. You can see that we've been on the budget guarantee before. We had about a 3% loss of enrollment this year in our resident count and in our served count. I'll talk about that a little more, but that's what puts districts on the guarantee typically, is when their enrollment is decreasing, whether it's just for 1 year and it's a blip, or if it's a more permanent or a more ongoing situation for the district. Couple other topics, and we've got a couple charts here. One is we think about, and we're not unique in West Des Moines, we're not unique in Iowa in this aspect. It's a national, perhaps an international issue, as fertility rates have been dropping for quite some time. So obviously, people that are having children are doing it later, maybe because of costs or other factors, they're having fewer children. So that puts obviously a lot of pressure on our system when we're funded really dramatically through enrollment. And you can also see the dynamic here in West Des Moines schools. So in grades K2 right now, our average enrollment this fall, we take that measurement basically October 1st each year. And we had average of 579 students in those grades. And in 10-12, we're over 729. So you can see a 150 student gap. So as those students graduate, unless we have this 729 students coming in the next year, that puts, again, that's where we see that pressure in the system right now. So that's a dynamic that we will continue to wrestle with for the foreseeable future. And finally, a little bit more on enrollment then. This is my last slide. When we look at enrollment, we think about it really in two aspects. The blue on this chart would be students who are resident to our district that attended public school someplace in Iowa, because we have this concept of open enrollment in and out. And the orange are the students who are actually serving. So we're fortunate, and you can see to the right there, there's a chart showing a spread between the number of students that come in from other districts to the number of students that are going out. So we're fortunate that we're a net positive when it comes to open enrollment. But overall, the trend is still down, and that's what's going to continue to put pressure on our operating budget. Any questions about any of that? Okay.
Okay, so sometimes I think that when we talk about what's going on in our schools, we get into the challenges and everything. And I was like, we need to talk about the celebrations and some of the great things that we're doing, because we are doing a lot of really great things in West Des Moines schools. So this is going to be just a lot of great stuff that we're doing. The first picture, or one of the pictures up here, is we had 7 National Merit semifinalists this year in our schools. We graduated over 740 students last year from Valley. 28 of our seniors last year received the seal of biliteracy, which is a test they have to take to show they can speak 2 different languages. And last year also we had 1,573 students who were dual enrolled with DMAC, and they earned over 13,790 college credits. And 62 of our seniors last year graduated with a degree, diploma, or certificate from DMAC. So we're doing a lot of great things and partnering with DMAC, helping kids access college course material and credits while they're still in high school. And the great thing about that is it's free to them, right? So these 62 kids have a degree from DMAC and it costs them nothing, which is really awesome. Also, the younger kids up there, last year we graduated out of 6th grade, our very first cohort of Spanish immersion. So these kids started in kindergarten in a Spanish immersion class program, and they've gone all the way through elementary, speaking Spanish and English in the classroom. And that's a really, it used to be a unique thing, but more people like it now. But it's a great thing. We have a really long waiting list for this program, and the kids and the staff and the parents just love it. So that's something great that we're doing in academics. In terms of fine arts, we have a lot of awesome opportunities. We recently just had our Impact of Art show that we have at the LRC. Kids, students in all grade levels are invited to share some of their art by their teachers, and it's like a real art show, and they come and stand by their art, and people talk to them about it and take pictures, and that's a lot of fun. We also have 3, we added one more, so we have 3 show choirs. We have enough kids to have 3, and they all do really well at their performances / competitions. We've got a huge marching band. Our orchestra kids, the younger grades go on tours to the elementary school so they can show the younger kids how to play. And one of my favorite tours is the pop orchestra. They play pop music, and so they're playing stuff from movies and stuff the kids have seen, and they sing along. And it's really cool to see all of the kids engage in that musically. Also, we have elementary plays. Up there was Frozen. Newsies up there is at our junior high. We had high school did Hamlet this year. We have a very active mime group, which I think is something unique to to the area. And our kids who are involved in fine arts in high school have the opportunity to take some amazing trips. For example, our choirs kids went to Spain over spring break and were singing all around Spain, which is just a great opportunity for kids, not only to share their gifts and participate in fine arts, but also to see a different part of the world. So I think Valley has a reputation for being pretty good at sports. So this is just, I went back like a few months and pulled some stuff. I think some of the most notable things, we have a lot of state qualifiers up there, which is fantastic. And I am proud of the kids. But also we have a coach of the year. That was for volleyball, I believe, right? Jeremy was for volleyball. And that was an Iowa recognition. And then a national recognition was Coach Aziz Zafar for soccer, which is just really cool to see our coaches being recognized for a lot of the work that they put into the kids. And knowing that not only are we having, top athletes, but we also have coaches who are helping them get there. So we have also a lot of student activities that kids can be involved in. We have kids who participate every year in Meals from the Heartland. We have two different organizations, the National Honor Society and the Tri-M Club, both organize different blood drives at the high school every year. We have a posse dance group. At Indian Hills, the kids go and buy stuff, buy toys every year before Christmas to donate to Clive Community Services. We have a high school leadership academy for kids to participate in. We have a robotics club at elementary, junior high, and high school levels. We have clubs who do stuff to give back, like making blankets for local organizations. We have our student voice symposium where kids have the opportunity to share their voice and learn more about how to be leaders. And we have a very active junior ROTC group. And the Festival of Trees. We have a club that sponsors some trees and the kids get together and decorate them every year as well. So that's just some of what we do. That's not everything. But as you can see, there's a lot of different stuff for kids to get involved in wherever they may have interests. And our kids are always just doing a lot of amazing things. The last thing I wanted to talk about was just some celebrations of our staff. You may have seen it on the news, but in the fall, our football players do a My Jersey, Your Impact thing where they pick a teacher that has impacted them over their educational career. They write why they've impacted them, and then they go and give them their jersey and the statement about why they impacted them. And it's a really awesome way to see all these kids. Some of them pick people in high school, some of them go to junior high, sometimes they go all the way back to elementary, and to see our staff recognized and our kids like appreciating. It's just a really cool thing that we do. That bottom picture there is our Valley Hall of Honor this year. We inducted Janet Edwards, Steve Moore, and Pam Weimer, and every year we induct new people into our Hall of Honor that have had a significant impact on Valley. So that's a way we're celebrating past and current people that have been effective. Also, the top picture here is really cool. It was the Western Human Rights Commission they recognized 4 of our students up there. Sarah, Montserrat, Blake, and William all got recognized for their leadership. And then Kendall also, they didn't mention her, but she is a student rep on the Western Human Rights Commission, and she's also one of our students from Valley. So it's really cool to see our kids involved in a lot of different ways. We also have a lot of staff getting recognized, like the Iowa School Public Relations Association recognized our communications department for their excellent work. And we have a lot of staff who just get recognized for all the amazing work they do. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Just there's a lot of really great stuff happening in our schools. And if you want to know more about any of it, I'm happy to tell you about it.
Thank you. Well, I think the significance of that is when we developed our new strategic plan, we anchored back into the desired daily experiences of our students, our staff, and our families. And I just love how the board was interested in the kind of experience our students are having. And so when you think about a sense of belonging, sense of welcome, and being heard, these students want to be engaged in activities. And so we have robust career opportunities and pathways for them. I'm never going to, as superintendent, I'm never going to apologize for looking at resources towards earlier intervention. Okay. So early intervention compared to remediation, it's less costly and it's more effective. And so we've been having a lot of conversations about, students that are maybe haven't had a preschool experience, or as they enter school, having more resources to them. So I just wanted to share a couple of things with you. We're going to expand access to pre-K in our buildings. We're offering wraparound care this next year. We heard from families that, hey, we would love to be part of your preschool program, but that other half of the day, we're not exactly sure what to do. So we're gonna partner, obviously, with our Kids West care program and make that happen. We're expanding that at Crossroads, and we're also exploring tuition 3-year-old preschool. We want kids to have a preschool experience before they come into school. The other thing that we're doing next year, so these are conversations we've had and decisions that we've made, is offering transitional kindergarten. We're going to kind of pilot that in a couple of schools. I've been told as of today they're full. If there's a waiting list, we're ready to add another section. I think this is an area that's going to serve us well, and so we're kind of excited about that. And it's really just combining kind of that play of preschool with the academics of kindergarten. You might not quite your age eligible, but you might not be ready for kindergarten. So this kind of gives you kind of a longer runway, if you will, to kind of get ready for that school experience. So we are adding that. I also thought it was important to say thank you to you and the communities that we serve. We did aggressively pursue a $135 million bond referendum. Jokingly in June, my board said, let's go for a bond referendum. I said, that sounds good. November of 2026. No, November 2025. I was like, oh. And so that was a short runway, and worked really hard. Pete, I remember coming to the chamber meeting and just the advocacy that you provided to us, the partnership. That when we have great schools, we have great cities. When we have great cities, we have great schools. And so that bond referendum passed overwhelmingly. It takes a super majority, but we were at nearly 70%. And I really mean that sincerely. Thank you, because we want to serve our students at the highest level, and we know that the facilities can contribute to that. So we do appreciate that. We're going to finish with kind of what's next in this collaboration. One of our core values as a school district is meaningful collaborative relationships. We include this one with you. And so we're going to talk about what's next. I think Elizabeth is going to kick us off with that. Yep.
What's next? Well, it's kind of already been talked about, but we're planning the Crestview Back to School Bash. I worked with Prairie Meadows last year to get some additional money for those backpacks, and we have some left to spend for this year, which is great. And just working and seeking out other community partners that can help with that. They like to hear when we are working together, and it helps inspire them to help us do more with what we have. Did you want me to talk about all these?
About what?
All these?
Well, I'm excited. I'll talk about the green space at
Talk about the
Indian
green
Hills.
space, yes.
When I got here as superintendent and I saw how that green space was used at Indian Hills Junior High, I knew there was a project there. I said, Matt, I think I said that to you almost 4 years ago. There's a project here. And so as I kind of found my bearings in the school district, and as we started talking about, the needs, the redundancies, we serve the same communities. Suddenly it's like there is a project here. So with the bond referendum, I don't want to go into all of where we landed on that number, but I certainly didn't want to get lost this idea of a project. And so we've kicked it off. I mean, we're going to be talking quite a bit about it here in the coming weeks, where we can partner and use that green space to better serve the students and families that we serve and the citizens that you serve. So more to come on that, but just really excited about this opportunity and possibility.
Yeah, and the West Des Moines Community Schools and Clive newsletter, that joint newsletter is really awesome. I think going out in English and Spanish, I think continuing that is a great way to continue the partnership that we've been working on.
And with that, we're going to end with a picture of the chief. But when I saw this picture, and I didn't put this picture in, I was like, this is perfect, because I don't think we could end without talking about the awesome relationship between City of Clive, School District, and the SRO program. And how that has enhanced what's going on in those two schools. Chief will pick up my phone call on the first ring and likewise. And I can't overstate the importance of keeping our kids safe and knowing what's going on in our cities and communities in the partnership with the police department and the SRO program, the relationships they build with our students. Courtney's coming in as the new SRO. She's going to be fantastic. And so I'm glad to end on this slide because I'd be remiss if I didn't lift up the SRO program and how important it is to us. With that, we would entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
Thanks for everything.
Yep. One thing I'll mention, Your Honor, is hopefully here by first council meeting in May, we'll have a scope of services RFP to release or to ask the council and the school board to authorize release related to the green space. So that's an active project. The council has identified resources in the CIP for that, school board as well, to do the master plan visioning process with the neighborhood engagement as well as the school's needs. We know that there's been a project there for quite some time in terms of how the neighborhood likes to utilize that green space, as well as obviously the priority of the school district being their property. Pretty excited about bringing that back to you all and having something by the fall in terms of a process started to engage the neighborhood and understand what is this vision long term of how we can work together to maximize that valuable asset in the middle of the Indian Hills neighborhood. So that'll be coming as was mentioned by Matt here very, very soon over the next month or so.
Thank you, Matt.
Your Honor, if I could add too, building on what Dr. Adams shared about getting a phone call from the chief and you've got it on the first ring and vice versa for our chief. There are so many of those little things that don't get not noted necessarily in a big presentation like this. So just so happens that over the last 2 weeks, I've been at Crossroads Park to present all the fifth graders on stormwater, specifically the Walnut Creek watershed. I'm trading emails right now with staff over at Crestview so we can get goats there to celebrate the end of the school year. Later this spring, I'll be in Mr. Trigstead's class over at Indian Hills to talk about city government and civic life and all those things. Those kinds of little touches between the Parks Department, the Police Department, Fire Department are happening on a weekly basis. And they've added up into something that really sustains this relationship.
Thanks for lifting that up because Fire Chief and his group and how they've supported Crestview with whatever they need. You know, John Mendoza says, "What do you need?" And then it shows up. I started by saying I can't overstate the power of this relationship, but it's textbook.
It's come a long way.
Yeah.
And you've been a big part of that and really appreciate it. Appreciate your leadership.
I knew you'd hold me accountable. So I knew I had
know
to
it.
deliver.
That's right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Next up, we have staff recognition. Matt?
Thank you, Your Honor. Wanted to take a moment here tonight to recognize our engineering administrator, Jim Hagley, who's been with the city over 20 years. Jim will be retiring tomorrow, and we have a 30-slide presentation of all of Jim's projects that he's done over the year. I'm just kidding, Jim. But wanted to give council an opportunity. You see Jim on a regular basis in this council chambers, all of you in your careers, that he's been here with the city of Clive, whether it's talking about capital projects or discussions during capital improvements planning. You see Jim and the engineering team more than almost any other staff member in front of you during council meetings. And so I wanted to take an opportunity to recognize Jim for his service, but also recognize the legacy that he's leaving behind, who's stepping into his shoes, John Saigon, who's sitting a couple people to his right, who will be taking over as engineering administrator. And then Colton Cunningham, who is our new civil engineer, who'll be backfilling John's position. So just introducing some new faces or a new face. You've seen John a number of times over the last few years, but just wanted to take an opportunity to recognize Jim and then and talk a little bit about the future as well here in the city of Clive. Don't know if Jim wants to say anything, but I'm guessing he might have just maybe a few short words.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I did, in cleaning out the files and all that, I had a running list kind of going and so I was able to update that. And the total with the work that we did last year was just over $60 million. And a couple $1 million of change orders. So we're always trying to control that. It's not just one person, I have a couple inspectors who've been with me for over 15 years. Tony Clemenson's been over, all those projects. He's been involved with those, and Nolan Dapp, 15 of those. And then we've approached, we've started doing a lot more rehab, as you all know. And when we bumped that up, it was important to get more staff, and we were able to do that with Brandon and then with John. So that was obviously important. So just appreciate the support over the years. And I guess this is where I say I'm happy to take any questions. That's what I always said.
Well, thanks for all your service, Jim. You've done a great job, and you've always been a straight shooter with us and provided us good information. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to echo that, Jim. It's a difficult job, what you do, and it's highly technical, and really appreciate the way you can break it down and make it easy. Answer questions on change orders and things of that nature, and really have a real grasp on infrastructure and what you guys do. So great job. Really appreciate everything you've done for the city for many years.
We're going to miss you.
Council nights will not be the same, but the city will, thanks to the leadership that you've shown in bringing some other great people along. So thank you.
Thanks again,
Thank
Jim,
you,
and
Jim.
good luck. What are you going to do after your last day?
Well, we had lunch today and I was telling Doug it's more about what I'm not going to be doing in the immediate future. We only have a little time to figure things out, but probably some part-time work. I don't have anything scheduled for next Monday.
He's gonna miss talking to contractors, it, right?
Well, I also went through the files and I found the audio file dump of the voicemails over the years.
Oh,
And I'm not going to share those tonight. But I think it's important to remember when you're doing a project and you're touching 40 people, you're dealing with 2 of them most of the time. But you have to keep in mind that the other 38 are working with you and accepting what you're trying to accomplish. So
Right.
It's important too.
Good perspective.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks,
Great
Jim.
job. Next, we'll move into consent.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and second on consent. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that? And consent is approved by a vote of 5-0. Next up, we've got our first public hearing on the budget. Did we publish the appropriate public notice?
Yes, Your Honor, it's published in the Des Moines Register on March 20th, 2026.
Very good.
To wait for Jim. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your leadership and also the leadership of the executive team and any other staff members that have had a role in putting this budget together. We started with strategic planning and CIP planning back in August, and we held several public meetings to really bring in the public input into this process. So for 8 consecutive years, we were at $10.14. And then 2 years ago, we reduced or decreased the property taxes levy to $9.92. And staff is proposing to maintain that level. So what we have before you tonight is a resolution to approve the budget for 2026-27. We have put it in the final form. It's been published, which was required by law. And we have not received any comments at this time. So unless you have any other questions, staff recommends approval.
Any questions for Liz? Is there anyone in the chamber who address us on this matter or anyone online?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion is second, close public hearing. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? Public hearing is closed by a vote of 5-0.
Move the resolution approving the FY 2026-27 budget.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the budget. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that budget is approved by a vote of 5-0. Next up, we have some GEO bonds.
We do. By now, you've received the news that we maintain our AAA bond rating. And this is really our top rating, a top tiered rating that helps us secure our low interest rate for our bonds. So really with strong financial management and continued commitment to delivering excellent value for taxpayer dollars, that's what's very helpful in maintaining that. Congratulations to city leadership again, for that level of oversight. The action for this evening is to approve the resolution setting the date and time for the bond sale, which is going to be next meeting, April 23rd, to authorize the issuance of also the preliminary official statement, which was that big 54-page document that was in your packet. That also in the memo also included the CIP projects that this particular bond issue will fund. Any questions?
Any questions for Liz? Otherwise, we're looking for a
I'll move the
resolution.
resolution setting the sale date for April 23rd, 2026 at 6 PM for the GO Corporate Purpose Bonds Series 2026A and authorizing the use of preliminary official statement in connection therewith.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that passes by a vote of 5-0. Utility rates.
One more, yes. Thank you. So yes, as you said, this second consideration for ordinances for utility rates this evening, which we proposed and approved during the budget process. So we incorporated a 0% increase for the residential and the commercial customers while transitioning to the fixed and variable rate structure. We also included a 2% increase of water rates for irrigation water rates for the upcoming fiscal year. For sewer, we incorporated a 4.5% increase, and then for stormwater is a 3% increase. We've had no public comment since the last meeting as well. Staff recommends approval.
Questions for Liz?
I'll move that ordinance number 1175, having been considered by the council, be voted on for passage prior to its final adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second on the second consideration. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? That passes by a vote of 5-0.
I'll move that ordinance number 1176, having been considered by the council, be voted on for passage prior to its final adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? That passes by a vote of 5-0.
And I'll move that ordinance number 1177, having been considered by the council, be voted on for passage prior to its final adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Ryan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight for the second reading of building code and fire code adoption, I've got a couple of different things to discuss. The first one, we had a lot owner that had a concern about some wind load and the adoption of the 110 mile an hour wind load that was provided in our schedule that we have to fill out for the residential code. So just a little bit of background on that. When we evaluate structural loading, whether it's wind or snow loads, we get the help from the association, American Society of Civil Engineering, which is ASCE. And typically with structural design, we're looking at chapter, it'd be A7 and 22 would be the date on that. So within that, you've got different risk categories that are assigned to different types of buildings. Residential is a type 2 building. So business is not much different. So you have a business building that is also a type 2. When you start talking about some higher risk, you're looking at risk 3 and 4. So primarily in Clive, we're looking at risk 2, which the A7 hazard tool that we utilize indicates 110 wind load. And that's what we provided for you in the new building code adoption is 110 mile an hour wind load that would be applied to a risk 2 category, which is, again, mainly residential. When you get into category risks 3 and 4, you're talking about hospitals, talking emergency centers, water supply areas that have to provide water and utilities during emergency situations. Those are going to be a higher risk. But in the IBC, we don't use a chart like we do in the IRC that just says everything IRC is going to be 110 mile an hour. It's going to be designed to that. The risk categories that are assigned to the structures that are being built and the use of that structure are assigned to the IBC, of which then the risk category will change based on the IBC. And the designer would have to go in and figure that out and propose what wind load would be required during that time. So that's a little background on it. Clive, we're sitting at right around 110 mile an hour on our ultimate wind speed for that. That's the minimum load. So I think the gentleman who spoke at the public hearing was indicated that they wanted a stronger, more robust minimum to our wind loading. We encourage that, but we have to set our standards at the minimum base code. And there's a couple of things, affordability of structures and other things that come into play with that. So 110 is what we were originally proposing and still proposing tonight. That 110 wind load would be the minimum. And if they want to design to a higher standard, we certainly welcome that. The second item is to talk about some roofing permits that we brought forth. It may make sense to maybe close out the code, because really tonight we were here for the second consideration of the code. And then if I could get a little of your time, maybe 10 minutes tops after we go through the vote for the second consideration, I'll just kind of dive into the code. The roofing permit that we kind of hinted to last time is not actually tied to the building code. It's just some things our department has been working on. So maybe we just clean up the second consideration vote, and then I'll just talk a little bit about the roofing permits. That's okay. And I'll take any questions. No, there haven't been any concerns or comments or questions to the fire code or anything additional on the building code. So we would encourage and recommend adoption of the second consideration.
I'll move that ordinance number 1174 having been considered by the council be voted on for passage prior to its final adoption.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote?
You didn't get mine? I did it.
It passed, Mayor. 5-0. It's not showing.
I'm told this passed by a vote of 5-0. Thank you, Ryan. Now,
Okay. Just a couple of additional items I'd like to bring forward. There were some questions from the public hearing when we started talking about this. So I wanted to give some clarity, kind of where we're at as a department with regards to this roofing permit policy. The policy rationale, we came up with 6 categories that we investigated and we really felt were important to this community. The first one is life safety and code compliance, consumer protection, storm resilience, plus the insurance alignment. We talked about the BSEG score that the city gets for insurance purposes. One of the categories in there, and it's a pretty substantial category when you're talking about insurance claims, is roof replacements in your community. When you have roof replacements in the community, they ask how many permits you've issued. The past years of filling out the evaluations, we've been able to put new construction because we are looking at roofs during new construction, but re-roofs, we have not been able to put anything in that category. So that was an important element. A couple of the other items, contractor accountability, not only with us, but also with the state of Iowa, the contractor registrations that are required. That was important to us. Property value and neighborhood stability. And then just consistent administrative and legal, the consistency within that. Again, Ted provided some really good questions during the last council meeting and then just through some emails. And the considerations for the program, there's a lot to consider when you're talking about a program of this magnitude. It's not a lot to do with individual roofs, but it could be, right? You know, you have a disaster that comes through your city. You could have a lot of roofs being replaced. You've got to figure out a efficient way to manage that.
Then we become a bottleneck to having those roofs
Yeah.
replaced, right?
Yep.
So
And the considerations that we gave to that are, first thing is you got to maintain a simple and accessible permit application process. Luckily, we've got Citizen Serve that we use now as our permitting software. So everything can be done online from a home, from a phone, from a truck, wherever you're at, you can apply for a permit. In the council packet, I provided a copy of kind of what a permit would look like. That's a draft. We would actually set that up in Citizen Serve to allow applications to be done online at any time. So that simple process, we wanted to offer clear guidance on when permits are required. Also in the packet, we put together a roofing permit guideline. And in that roofing permit guideline, the way we look at this program, if you are replacing 50% or more of your roof, then a roofing permit would be required. Anything less than that, we would call a repair, and they'd be able to just typically match what's on the house. The other component of that was 25% of a flat roof. Flat roofs are known to leak a little bit more than pitched roofs. So if you're going to replace 25% or more of a flat roof, that is when the permit trigger would come into play as well. The third item was to provide reasonable inspection protocols or audit-based compliance. We talked about originally doing 2 different inspections on that. Now, I wanted to talk kind of through that. The 2 inspections mainly are going to be done on commercial establishments because of the insulation properties that are usually put on the top surface of the structural component of a commercial roof. So we've got energy efficient standards that need to be checked and verified. So commercial project, there would be definitely 1 inspection done out there that would look at energy compliance. And then also the final inspection on a commercial building would be done at the end for penetration sealants, correct flashing, coping, those types of things would be finished. Residential world's a little bit different.
before you move on from that,
Yep.
explain to me why it's our role to check that as opposed to the business owner doing that, and then why that's not their responsibility, because I'm not quite following that yet.
On a commercial building?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, on either, but yeah, I mean, you're specifically talking about commercial here and checking the energy of compliance and all that. Why is it our responsibility to confirm that and not the business owners?
Well, as a jurisdiction and following state code compliance, the state energy code, which again, we're on the 2012 International Energy Code, that is driven by the state. And one of the state requirements is anytime commercial insulation is changed, a full tear off of the roof, the insulation's removed, it is the city's responsibility to check that an R30 is put back at a minimum. If they don't have an R30 and it's all peeled off, they get to put it back. And I get what you're saying. Why is it not the building owner's responsibility to do that? Technically, it would be, but I don't know how many building owners really even know that that is a thing. So part of this program is going to be some education piece of that as well. So the energy code.
Brian, have we had any complaints from business owners, any roof complaints that they've brought to the city of concerns with roofing replacements?
Yes. Yes. Both. Mainly residential, but commercial. And a lot of it is usually things are caught during the sale of a property. Somebody comes in and does an inspection of the property, and then they're calling us and they want to see permits that were issued for a re-roof. And a lot of times we just tell them, we know that roof is done. However, we don't have inspection records because we don't have a process of issuing roofing permits separate from a new construction building. So that's just the commercial side. The residential side, we deal with, again, insurance agents as well, especially after the derecho and some large hail events that have come through the area. We deal with insurance companies that want us to provide them with an inspection report so they can pay their client. And I think part of that has to do with so somebody's not making a dual claim on a house or a home on a replacement. So when they call us, we tell them, yes, we have codes adopted that would enforce these provisions, and we list them out and we give that to the insurance company. But we don't have a inspection program, and we do not issue individual re-roofing permits. And then they take it and run with it. I'm not sure what happens after that. On the other side of that, we do get residential, not really complaints, because when we explain we don't have a permit process, they want to talk about a roof leak or something strange that's going on up in their attic. So we do get involved. We do educate. We do take visits out to job sites, peek our heads in the attics. Once in a while, we'll take a peek at a roof. And I would say 8 out of 10 situations is a poor ventilation situation up in the attic. And during a re-roof, that is the time to address that. If you don't get out there and you don't evaluate how much ventilation is required in that attic, if you have roof sheathing rot, it's going to be good for about 2 years with that new roof. But if the moisture is coming from attic ventilation, not taken out to the exterior, it's going to be back.
Yeah, I've seen that plenty of times for sure. Yeah.
And mold.
Yeah,
like you
absolutely.
said.
I've seen it many times. I'm still, you got to convince me that it's our role to be involved in that process because I'm not there yet. So
Ted, I would take your question one step further and go and ask, what risk are we mitigating for the city by implementing this? And maybe that's a legal
well, that's a
question.
valid question. I don't.
Are people coming
see
to
it.
the city blaming us?
No.
I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't think
No.
so.
No, I look at all of the services that we offer, whether it's permits or inspections. I look at that as a betterment for the community.
Okay.
Yeah, I
know,
think I think your intentions are good, and I'm certainly not questioning that at all. I'm just questioning whether we need those additional hoops and bureaucracy to put in place for our homeowners, and is there enough value there for them? And I'm not there yet. And part of my question is also, what's the limiting principle here, right? Like in the currently, and correct me if I'm wrong, we only require permits for additions and major renovations, basically, so at a high level. Now we're getting into replacements. So why aren't we pulling permits for HVACs? Why aren't we pulling permits for my basement floods and I got to replace half the drywall? Well, drywall can have a lot of mold too. There's safety issues there too, right? So why are we not pulling permits for that?
We are.
I didn't.
Traditionally, we are. If there's flooding in a basement and the flooding level is up to the point where it's impacted electrical circuits, that's when the city gets involved with permitting, because the electricity takes, NEMA provided a document that there's special inspections that need to be done before an electrical contractor is able to fire back up that circuit. Now, that is just for
That's
water
fair. I get it.
saturation.
But Brian, let's get back to the issue at hand, which my concern is staff time to go out and do these inspections on this, especially after a major event.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on that?
So the residential, which I think is going to be, we are thinking that there's going to be on average an annual average of about 115 to 120 roof replacements done in the city. Okay, that's just that's without a major, derecho or windstorm coming through here. The way we're going to handle the residential side is we are going to require one final inspection out there at the end of the project. So let me take you through how we envision this going going to happen. Contractors able to pull a permit online. They would need to provide information based on what material they're going to use. Again, we talked about wind load earlier. They've got to have a shingle, which 110 mile an hour is going to cover every shingle out there that's offered in the Midwest right now. Okay. So they're going to have to provide us some information at the permit, but they're getting tickets from the vendors that show all that: ice and water shield, architectural shingle, black, 14 roof vents. They're going to show us all that. We're going to issue the permit. Once the permit's issued, they can go clear that roof. One thing we're going to ask them to do is, as soon as that roof is stripped, we're going to ask for pictures. They're going to have to document what that roof structure looks like on the sheathing. We're going to have to evaluate the ventilation openings. I've seen shingles laid right over the top of ventilation openings, and I'm not sure why, but the vents were left off. Okay, the holes in the roof were there. The guys who were shingling it just went to town and didn't bother to put on roof vents. Okay, we're going to ask for pictures, and we're going to conduct one final inspection after it. So we're going to issue a permit. We're going to get out of your way, get your stuff done, get us some pictures, and we're going to evaluate to make sure that things are put together.
So for
correctly.
residential, one inspection.
One inspection.
Okay.
Yep.
Last time I was thinking you were saying 2 inspections, and
Yeah.
you're saying that's just for commercial.
That's just for commercial. Yep. Eric, back to your question. Timing on that. How much time is going to be invested by staff? So that those 115 residential roofs, we figured about 1.5 hours of inspector time. You got to figure about 45 minutes for an inspection. You know, you're getting in your car, driving out there, doing the inspection, coming back. The other half hour is for the reviewing the pictures. It's also for processing the permit and basically closing out the file. I do want to mention none of the other cities around us do this, but it doesn't mean they don't want, they all want to do this. They're busy chasing new construction. They would have to hire more staff. The city of Clive is reaching a point where we get this opportunity. Our new construction is slowly peeling back, and we're going to have to start taking care of what we have inside. So as we make those changes, programs like this, Des Moines is actually looking at doing this right now as well. And they reached out and said, let us know how it goes with you guys, because we're going to piggyback off you if it's successful. A lot of other communities around the state of Iowa: Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Hiawatha, Marion, Council Bluffs, Fort Dodge, Cedar Rapids, Bettendorf. There's a lot of them that are doing this. I think it'd be great if Clive could be a pilot for it. Again, the consideration was it's got to be something that works. And if we can't get by that, we don't want to hold contractors up, Ted.
Right.
Because
And my
you're
biggest
right.
concern is the homeowner side of it, right? And so walk me through it, Ryan. If we do the permit, the contractor goes out there, does the work, they take their pictures, they provide it to you, they claim they're done, and then how long before you're out there to inspect, or you or your staff is out there to inspect it? And what happens if it doesn't pass? What does that mean to the homeowner?
Well, I can assure you this: if it doesn't pass, the city's going to be the middle person telling that contractor of what needs fixed. The homeowner may not know, and even if they do know, they really don't have to bother. The city is getting involved to a point where when we do inspections, it's this way with all the inspections. We go out there. If something is not correct, it's our job to report that to the contractor and then see it through.
Does that give the city liability to the issue Bree, I know you brought that up, then all of a sudden the city's a middleman and we've got liability involved. That's a little concerning.
Well, there's liability with everything that we're inspecting. I mean, we're inspecting
Not if we're not
hospitals.
inspecting it, there isn't. There's no liability in roofing right now, Ryan. This is creating the opportunity. That's my concern.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
So, Your Honor, One thought that I have is, now that we've gone a little over 10 minutes on this discussion, this of course is clearly see this as a policy discussion that we need to follow up
Yeah.
on, as Ryan and I have discussed. One thing I want to do though, just right before we close here, because we'll follow back up and dig deeper into some of these questions that are being offered. Is there any other questions that council members have regarding this that you want us to research, follow up on, and then we'll bring those back for a separate kind of policy conversation later this spring or summer? Or is this something that, just getting a sense from the entire council, not interested in right now? Let's not spend time on it and let's move on. That would be helpful, at least for us, to get that read from the council at
I
this
mean,
moment.
I'm open to looking at it still. I have some skepticism and some concerns. Again, I want to understand what the limiting principle is here. I mean, are we going to, every time someone replaces something in their home, do we have to pull a permit? I mean, like you had mentioned before, windows, okay? I mean, again, windows, HVAC, roof, I mean, where does it end? Well, at what point where are we stopping that, right? So I want to understand what that looks like too, so.
Mhm.
Okay. So I guess this might come from staff, but I'm well aware that there have been multiple pieces of legislation at least considered this year. I don't know the adoption point, trying to restrict the ability of cities to have regulation on properties. And part of it is driven by the sense that there are statistics out there that talk about how regulations are affecting the cost of properties. And I've been in favor of us being able to have some zoning restrictions and safety support and that kind of thing. But I worry about putting anything new in place because it starts to highlight a focus on that topic that I think can backfire in other ways. So maybe having an understanding of how that played out during this legislative session and some thoughtful consideration moving forward for anything new we might adopt.
Yeah, Councilmember Jenkins, there's definitely been, I think, every legislative session, particularly the last 2 or 3, there's been at least one, if not multiple bills introduced, either looking to take all cities up the state codes back to a certain point and changing that. Interestingly enough, there wasn't too many this year and none that I'm aware of that are still active that were ever adopted. But doesn't mean, I know last session there was a plethora of them, the previous session. So there's definitely still legislative interest in that topic, to your point of the cost of development and the cost of construction being a major consideration. So I don't see that waning in future legislative sessions.
What about the SUDAS changes, which may result in more changes moving forward? That's one that did
Yeah,
pass.
the SUDAS did. Yeah, that would be related to public infrastructure, mainly hard infrastructure, not necessarily building codes. But that is one in the city regulation or local government regulation sphere that did pass.
Yeah.
The governor hasn't signed it yet, to my knowledge, but that did pass this session. You're correct.
So anyway, I just think it all connects to an extent.
Good point.
All right.
So Matt's looking for some guidance. Do we want to take a look at this during strategic planning a little bit later?
I think that's.
Strategic planning, nodding.
And any other questions that you all have too that may come up, please send those staff's way and we'll work through the ones that have been shared tonight and as well as any additional ones, and we'll bring it back for prioritization and strategic planning. All right.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan?
Ryan, excuse me. Sorry about that.
Jim's gone.
Yeah, it was hard for me to part.
Separation sign.
Yeah, something like that.
Where's Dutch?
There he is.
Still looking at myself on here.
Try to take that off.
Yeah, right.
A little bit.
I'm a sucker for a sweet dog.
Favorite toy.
There you go. Just hit your right button.
And the roofing guide.
We're ready back.
That we created. We want them to be registered.
Dr. Adams, just go ahead and take that ball from him, see what happens.
You can pull on it forever and he will not let go.
Nothing adverse will happen. I can about guarantee it. Mayor and council, thank you. You brought up the K-9 program when we were talking, when we have some earlier budget discussions, and Councilmember Weaver had asked for some information on what the program had been up to over the last almost 5 years. So happy to give you that information tonight. I did ask Sergeant Kempnick, and he brought his handler Dutch in with him. Dutch can answer any questions that you might have. And Councilmember Klein and I were talking right before the meeting. This was a program that we've been talking about really since about the mid 2000s. This goes back to when Chief Cox was even here. It took about 13 years, and we finally got a program going in 2021. But that started with a similar fundraising program like we're proposing now. We did have a smaller goal that we were looking for at that point of 60,000. But we were able to meet that goal through some partnerships and some swapping of equipment and some grants that we were able to find. And we were able to get Sergeant Kempnick, or Officer Kempnick at the time, selected as a handler. And he was partnered up with Dutch. And they've been on the street. It's a long process picking a dog and getting him trained. So it's about an 18-month or so process from the time that you decide, yeah, we want to do it, until you can get somebody partnered up and a dog trained and a handler trained and everything all together. But September of 2001, those two hit the streets. You can see their total number of deployments that they've had. I don't know what to compare this to because this is our first K-9 program, but I think these are high numbers when I look at them and I hear what other teams, K-9 teams, are doing throughout at least the Westcom jurisdictions, and these are high numbers to me. You can see in 2021 that just encapsulates the last 3 months of the year, but in 2022 they hit the ground running and had over 200 deployments that first year. And if you look at the smaller diagrams on the right side of your screens, you'll see that initially we had a lot of high volume calls from Clive police officers that were calling for a K-9. Those numbers have dropped off over the next few years, and there's a few reasons why that's happened. I think one is we initially had a brand new tool that we could use and everybody was using it. So you heard a lot of, I'm making a traffic stop, start me a K-9. That's why we have it. It's a K-9 is a tool. It's not the end all be all to any police program, but that's how we view Dutch is a good boy. He's a great animal. They're a great team. But at the end of the day, Dutch is a tool that we use and we employ him the right way. But if you look at the deployments throughout the next few years that are listed on there, you'll see that while our numbers are going down, agency assist call outs are going up substantially higher. So reasons for that, again, we were using him a lot that first year that he was out on the street. We got our officers conditioned to having a K-9 out on patrol with them. We got them better trained to where they might not necessarily need a K-9. So that accounts for some of those numbers going down. And in 2023 specifically, Urbandale fielded a second team, which cut into Dutch's numbers a little bit, but they've come right back up. So that small dip we had in 2023, we think we've accounted for why that happened. But again, pretty substantial numbers for one dog and a cop that are out on the street. As far as seizures go, you can see that we're in Iowa. We always have a pretty good marijuana problem. We've always had a pretty good methamphetamine problem. We measure seizures or amounts of drugs seized in grams, which is why the number is so high at the bottom. But you can see in 2024, we seized about 28,000 grams of methamphetamine. And to give you some idea, that equates to about 61.7 pounds of methamphetamine. That's a lot. Not all here in Clive. These are all the deployments that he's been on. Brian is heavily utilized by the postal inspectors to go down and do package sniffs. So he's intercepting a lot of cash seizures and drug seizures alike. As far as currency is located, I know when we initially started talking about getting a program like this, there was this idea that maybe this is a self-funding initiative, that there's going to be a bunch of cash seizures that are coming in and we're going to be able to fund this program forever. That's not always the case. And we've seen with seizures, cash seizures that Brian and Dutch make don't always come back to the city. In fact, most times they don't come back to the city. And that's because of the agreements that we have with the Mid-Iowa Narcotics Enforcement Task Force, with other partners that we work with. If we make a seizure with the postal inspectors, for an example, then we have equitable sharing agreements in place with the federal government. And as Doug alluded to at the last council meeting, if you've worked with the federal government recently, you know what a challenge that can be, especially right now. So we are working through some of those agreements. Dutch and Brian have seized over the last 4 years about $122,000 in cash. Roughly 86,000 of that potentially could come back to us, but we don't rely on that funding. As a matter of fact, the funding we do rely on is actually quite minimal from the city. It's about a $5,000 line item budget a year. And we still maintain a balance from when we fundraised for Dutch that we are still spending through on equipment and training and lodging when they go out of town on training, things like that. So from a financial consideration, this has been a very high return on investment for the city. Aside from that $5,000 line item, there are some overtime considerations that we have with Sergeant Kepnick and his role as a canine handler, coming out on call outs, for example. That number's not up there. It was about $6,700 last year. So $11,000 all in for the city. I look at that as a small investment for a very high return of what we get for this team. Some other considerations that we also look at when we talk about starting a canine program or continuing the program is it does not require additional full-time equivalent employees. We would always utilize staff that we have in-house. And the dog is, he's one of us, but he's not necessarily an employee. So he doesn't have much cost. We give him some kibble and some water and he does pretty well. We have worked, and credit to Sergeant Kepnick, on scheduling. He has altered his schedule so that we minimize call out time and overtime and the comp time that he accrues as a handler. That was a fairly significant expense. To his credit, he has altered his schedule to minimize that. The next person that we assign as a handler is going to be expected to work under that same arrangement. So why start now? We have had Dutch in place for about 5 years. Reasonably, you can expect a canine to be in service for about 7 to 8 years. So we're looking at about a 3-year period that we've got left with Dutch. So we want to start now with this fundraising program. We need time to raise the funds. We have to identify a new handler. We have to purchase a dog, probably from Europe, who will then come over to the United States, get obedience trained before he's even paired up with a handler. That's before they get scent trained to recognize the odor of narcotics. That's before they go to get paired up together and learn how to work together. So that's a long process. Again, about an 18-month process to do all that. If we start now, it gives us that time to build that program up. It also gives us an additional 18 months where we can have the two teams train together, work together, get some consistency between programs so that carries over into the next team. And it gives us the chance, quite honestly, to evaluate if we can support a 2-team program. I think we can, alternating shifts between these dogs. I think that gives us more opportunity on the street to use these teams as they're supposed to be used. And I think there's potential there for even additional savings as far as call outs and overtime go. So I know 3 years seems like a long time, but it takes time to evaluate these properly. This is by far our most popular program that we have ever had in my 27 years. Dutch is not including Brian, Dutch is the most requested asset that we have at the police department. And he goes everywhere. As Pete alluded to earlier, he goes to community events and trainings throughout the metro, and he's very well known, and Brian as well. They're very respected in the metro as a team. So that is our presentation. Like I said, we have a pretty lofty goal. Again, another reason why we are requesting to start that now. I would tell you that if you approve us to do this tonight, we are going to start tomorrow with this effort to raise $120,000. I know it seems like a lot, but costs continue to go up. Cost of dogs goes up. So it's just the reality that we're living with. I don't believe it will be a problem to raise those funds. It just might take a little bit more time than the initial program. So with that, I would take any questions that anybody has. I know Brian would love to answer questions. Dutch will answer as he can.
Susan?
This is maybe more a matter of interest, but I've read about evolving substance considerations in some prisons, that kind of thing, where they're changing. Are training elements changing for dogs as those drugs are evolving?
Yeah, I'll let Brian answer that.
Come to the mic, Brian.
Yeah, so we get our training drugs from the DEA itself. So as the drugs change, they're changing how they're made and the chemicals and compounds and everything that's in it. So like as marijuana starts to get legalized, more and more dogs are not getting on marijuana because you're kind of wasting your time with that. So it kind of makes it so your dog's not going to be as well, it's reliable because it's finding the marijuana, but like what's the end goal? I mean, you're finding the stuff that's legalized. So, but yeah, it's ever evolving, just like the dogs used to be really aggressive back in the 60s and 70s. Now you can come up and pet them, and they're just teaching them different ways to do it, making it better.
That just seems like it's going to become even more important as some of those things change.
Yes, yeah. And the place that we go to, he's a working handler himself up in Hancock County. So he is up to date on everything. He keeps, sometimes you go to a place that this is their private business. They've never been in law enforcement, but they're training police dogs and military dogs, and they're not quite up to snuff with what you might want in a dog. So.
Thank you.
Eric?
Brian, I remember we talked about this program for a long time,
Yes.
and I'm just glad that it's been so successful. And Chief and Brian, really a testament to the department to move this forward. I think it's a very important program without going into all the reasons. I think we're pretty familiar with that, but some of the newer members of the council, this has been a huge asset to the city and not only the city, but the whole region. You're well respected in Des Moines and Urbandale and West Des Moines, et cetera. So it's really what I always figured was a regional asset. So to me, I think this is a no-brainer to move this forward and continue with the very successful program. So I'm fully supportive of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Chief, I just wanted to thank you for your report. The written report was very helpful. All the information was, I was all in to begin with, but when I get all the data and I can see the value, it just reinforces it that much more, right? So, I appreciate you putting all that together for us.
Dutch for a little bit.
I will
Sucker
say
for a
too,
sweet dog, I tell you that.
Your Honor, and the council too, in terms of the fundraising, we have received some indications, I know, of some potential lead donors that are out there. One of them was in front of you not that long ago, who's a big supporter of law enforcement, and they've indicated an interest of being Elks Lodge being potentially a lead donor as a part of this
I
campaign.
thought you talked about West Des Moines School.
Well, we're gonna hit them up.
Dutch gets to hang out at the school too. As you can see out in the lobby earlier, he's very popular with the kids.
Very
so.
Absolutely.
That was one of the requirements we had was we wanted a social dog, and this kid will come right up next to you and lay down and take a nap if you ask him to. So he's a good boy. I would be remiss if I didn't point out the bottom left corner. That's not Dutch. You may have noticed. That's a German Shepherd named Riggs. Riggs belongs to Natasha Snowberger, who's one of our admin staff at the PD. He is actually a cadaver dog, and they work with Iowa Task Force 1. So buildings that collapse and need rubble searched, that's what Riggs does.
Wow.
He's an honorary canine member of the Clive PD, but we wanted to throw his photo up there too, give him some credit. So.
Very good. Sadie, Bree?
I'm fully supportive of it. I think it's a great PR thing on top of all of the good work he actually does.
Sadie?
I'm also fully supportive. One question, you mentioned the other, I can't remember the other dog's name.
Riggs.
Riggs?
Yep.
Has a different type of training, different type of certification.
Yes.
It's my understanding there are several types of certifications or specialties of dogs?
So,
has-
yeah, so Dutch is a dual purpose. He
Okay.
does handler protection, narcotics detection and tracking. But there are canine, arson explosive dogs. There are electronic detection dogs. Riggs is a cadaver dog. So yeah, they've got, and then
And then are there
and Brian can
support
talk about his certification because there's several different
types?
certification entities.
Yeah, so we certify through Dogs for Law Enforcement.
Okay.
It's recognized nationally. It was started in Texas. And we certify actually the first full week in May, which I'll be there. And there's usually about 100 dog teams there. And they have different certifications. Some guys are just narcotics, some dogs are just narcotics, some are dual purpose like we are, where you do the building searches, articles, tracking, apprehension, the whole gamut. And then there's some like they're just bombs. They don't really have any like cadaver or like just regular search and rescue for live people certification. At least if they do, they don't do it during our time. They might do it at a different time. But yeah, there are different organizations. We've certified through USPCA in narcotics in the past. I didn't do that this time because our main one, it just didn't seem like a good idea to be paying for two certifications when it's the same. Basically, you're certifying in the same stuff. So
And the plan would be to go through the same.
yes. Yeah, the Tree Town Kennels is the place. It's up in Forest City, Iowa. So it's an Iowa-based company, if that makes a difference at all. But and he's a chief deputy is basically what he is up there, but he's a handler himself. So yeah. And it's there's an additional 4-week class. You come back for a month and then you go to an additional 2-week more advanced class after that. So that month you come back, you work in the dog, and if you're having any issues or feel like you need to work on something, you get with him and he will work on those extra things that you need, plus the 2 weeks that he was going to work on other things with you.
Well, I think you've got the unanimity of the council. So
Very good. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.
thanks, Chief. Brian. All right, next up, we have reports. Pete, shall we start on your end?
Thank you, Your Honor. So we'll start with some important storytelling happening right now. If you haven't gone ahead and set up your Community Connect account, if you like to pay online, we'd encourage you to go ahead and do that. I got mine done today. I'd actually forgotten that I set up as an ACH customer, not just a credit card customer. So I got some appropriate ribbing from my teammates for being slower to get that knocked out. But I encourage all of you to do it. It's really simple.
Is that different than what we're already currently doing? Pete?
Yeah. Yep. So we are currently on where we were on Express Bill Pay. The Community Connect program, this platform gives us lower fees, which is really good. And I think also just a better sort of user experience. I feel up more confident putting my information in there with payment information too than I did back in the day with Express Bill Pay. Just a slicker system in general.
I have a question about it.
Mhm.
So I read what was in the newsletter and it said it will not automatically transfer over. You have to go in and update it.
Yep.
What's the deadline and what happens if somebody doesn't get it done?
Yep. So we want folks to get this done before June 1st, is what we've said in the newsletter. We do have plans in place to manage the casework for folks who either have issues, forget about it, so forth. We are not going to be charging late fees until we feel that we have made a very substantial sort of cut over to the new platform and giving people all opportunities to get that done. It's really important anytime we're dealing with money that we give people absolute confidence that we are taking care of their dollars, taking care of their financial, their well-being, and billing them accurately. And so we want to make sure that in this process, we give them maximum flexibility up to a reasonable point. Watching for double billing is one of the ways we're doing that right now with those ACH customers to make sure that once if they're like me, right, you kind of set it and forget it. Well, that's for me only doing it for 5 years, or yeah, about 5 years. For a lot of folks, that's now 10, 15 years that they've been doing it. So we understand if they've kind of lost track of how they were doing things, we want to be side by side with them to make sure that they have a complete transfer over to the next platform.
And this platform will be a much better user experience, and also about halves our transaction fee costs.
Yeah.
Which is a huge savings long term for the city
too.
Yep.
One question. So you sign up for Community Connect. Do you also need to deactivate? That's in the instructions.
Yep.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yep, that's
I
in the
haven't
instructions too.
delved into it yet, but okay.
They're in on my desk. So when you got your April newsletter, if you get the
Yep.
print or the electronic version, there was a separate one pager and then a third of a page, a flyer reminding people Community Connect. And we'll be following up with those same layers of communication in the month, throughout the month of April and into June.
Just 2 steps.
Yep. Then the second step with Express Bill Pay is more just good online hygiene. Don't leave your stuff floating around in accounts. So credit card information. A lot of folks pay by credit card. If you had that set up as a payment option in Express Bill Pay, don't rely just on the fact that it will eventually go away. It makes more sense, just good practice to go in there and delete that information. So we provide all the instructions on how to do that.
Can we do some text alerts or something else for those who may not read the newsletter, heaven forbid?
Yep, we can absolutely do that.
Because we know that people are busy.
Yep, it's front page on cityofclive.com, but I like that idea about text alerts. Related to this, we've talked a lot about how the city continues to adopt AI tools. When we were confronted with this challenge with the transfer to Community Connect, we knew that meant, ironically, that we would have to change how we do the electronic version of the city newsletter. That led us to uncover the Axios HQ tool. We've talked about that the last couple of council meetings, and we got the green light from all of you. Thank you very much. The first utility newsletter that will be going out powered by this new email engine, Axios HQ, will be the May newsletter. That gives us a lot of opportunities now to sort of better engage folks, whether they pay a utility bill or not. For anybody who's interested in this, Clive resident, Clive business, outside of Clive, former Clive resident, if you're interested in Clive, you're going to be able to get your hands on this now in a much easier way than you previously could. It's going to be sent directly to your inbox. It's not going to be an attachment, a PDF. It's going to be an easy to read, concise kind of summarization of what the print newsletter has in it, with plenty of options then to click into more to get more information on given topics. So we're excited about that tool. It's also very, very efficient way to produce that content using the AI, generative AI power in that tool. So we're excited. Tree sale started earlier this week and is going well. I don't have an updated number, but I'll grab one for Matt's email to staff, to the council tomorrow. If it's like last year, though, I expect it's just a matter of days before they're all sold out. It's a heck of a deal. So we encourage folks to get in there. If you're thinking about it, don't wait, because they're not going to be hanging around very long. And on the utility rate changes, we'll be into that third reading for your next council meeting. And we'll want to make sure we're being very intentional, specifically on the changes in the water part of the utility bill, going to that water availability fee and then the variable fee based on how many gallons you use, making sure people understand the increase that's going to be there for irrigation use. That leads me to my next point. We got an update today from our friends at Central Iowa Water Works and Des Moines Water Works about nitrate levels in our source waters. With the recent rains, and we'll see what happens with the flush we get from these rains, but as of Monday morning, the measurement in nitrate per liter was 17 milligrams per liter, which is the safe drinking water standard is 10. Everybody should know, though, that the teams are still able to get all of our finished water to that safe drinking water standard, if not better. It's taking some work, though, and the tools at our disposal to get that work done compared to where we were last year this time are significantly reduced because we haven't had a chance to recover. All winter long, we were still fighting this nitrate challenge and not able to do things like completely replenish the ASRs throughout the CIWW network or get Moffett Lake back up to the level that we want it to be at. So we're looking at a very challenging spring, but something we can manage. And I'm very happy that CIWW now has approved the pilot program to start the smart watering initiative. We'll have more information on that. Hopefully still this month, we'll have the sort of sign up structure in place and a website so we can direct people there who want to participate. We're definitely going to be doing our part as Clive a Clive team, a part of CIWW, to encourage Clive residents and businesses that are interested to participate. Continue to work with NCMIC too. That's an early interested corporate partner who is looking at ways that they can reduce the way that they're watering and improve the way that they're using irrigation. So excited about that, but this is going to be right in front of us for weeks, months to come until we can stabilize a little bit throughout the watershed. That's all I have tonight, Your Honor.
Any questions for Pete? Sadie?
No report tonight.
Ted?
I have nothing tonight.
Eric?
No report, Your Honor.
Susan?
A quick update on Bravo. I'm on the Finance and Sustainability Committee, and we met yesterday to talk about kind of flat revenues, partly because of communities pulling out. So this will be the first year that Norwalk and Altoona are not contributing. It is going to make some of the grant process a little bit more competitive. And there's discussion about how, as the grants come in a number of cases for those smaller entities that are maybe under a $2 million budget, the financial documentation isn't as good as it could be to ensure that you're looking at long-term sustainability, that kind of thing. There's an interest in not being punitive, but putting a process in place to encourage some good, accountable financial reporting to help basically provide an education process along with making it a good practice for their boards to understand how to see what the financial records are showing them. Now, I've spoken up and said, look, we better be careful to have anything that's too stringent because we want to be sure that projects from each of the participating communities are able to be funded. And so that was one of the things that I think is important. I've been on several boards for nonprofits where I fully understand some of the challenges that are there for good financial reporting. So we'll see how this evolves. Some of you may know Tej Dewan. He's a prominent business person who's been real active with Ballet Des Moines. And he was talking to me today and said that he was glad my voice was part of it yesterday. And I said, well, Tej, you remember what it was like for Ballet Des Moines before we got that institution to the point where it's doing far better. And he said, yes. And Bravo was helpful in accomplishing that. They helped to teach the board and staff what's important for financial reporting. But you may hear some conversation about that moving forward. Kim Perez, who was here earlier with Sally Dix tonight, is on that Finance and Sustainable Committee too. And her input was really valuable and she was in agreement with the things I was bringing. So I guess stay tuned. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Bree?
Nothing to report.
Anything on the legal side?
I do have one item. I wanted to let the council know that on behalf of the city attorneys, we made the first donation to your new canine program in the name of Nancy Weiler's deceased partner, John Settles. So we just wanted to know, you all to know that we found that to be meaningful to Nancy, who does all of your legal paralegal work, and to support the officers in the community. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Matt?
Were you gonna hit Dart in your comments then? Go for it. Well, you're the Dart member that voted on it, so why don't you, Your Honor?
We've been spending a lot of time at DART working through the budget, a lot of discussion about the Bus Plus program, and what's required and not required. And so we're looking carefully at that. It costs about $65 a trip for DART, and the riders pay $350. And there's a division between what is required versus what is voluntary. And the sense of the board was that we should continue, and it's in the budget, doing what we're doing because so many of those riders on the Bus Plus program need that to get to work, to get further places and such. So even though it's heavily subsidized, we've been doing that in DART for some time, and the expectation is that we'll continue to do so. Again, the new routes are about to be rolled out. And if you drive through the cities in the metro, you'll see signs with bags over them. Well, those are the new stops that will be unveiled at some point. So you'll see that coming about. You know, a few of those end up in places that people don't expect. So they wonder what the heck's that sign doing there. So DART's been explaining about that. But again, the budget going forward is in good shape. Again, it's got a reduction of a little over 2.5% over the current year. And so fiscally, things look pretty good going forward. Now, Matt, I'll let you expand.
Well,
Yeah, and go ahead.
Go ahead.
When's Amanda's last day, and what's the process for replacing her?
Her last day, we'll give her goodbye at the next meeting. The search committee is looking at internal candidates. And so they'll be doing that and doing interviews over the next 2 weeks. And then we'll have a report back at our next.
So internal only.
Internal. The expectation at this, because the plan for DART going forward is pretty well set. Communities are all in agreement. So at this stage, we need someone to implement that, not someone from outside to come in and try to learn the system and so forth. So that's the way the board was leaning at this point, is to find someone already there who understands the system, can keep things going in the direction that they are right now.
Interesting.
Matt.
Yeah, Your Honor, just a few items that I would provide updates on. So we, as I shared or mentioned, I know the mayor got a question on this and we shared with the council, we did get our census numbers, special census numbers finalized for those census tracts where we did the special census. So of course, when you do that and it's a partial special census doesn't give you like a new number for your community until you go through the process of getting the census tracts updated and then getting the number new certified with the state, of course, with the Iowa DOT and our road use tax funding, which was a big reason behind doing it. But I will, based on staff's preliminary numbers of looking at the census tracts that was shared with us, Clive's new population should be 20,277 people. That is 85 more than what staff estimated when we did the original kind of return on investments. Number one, staff got real close to that number. And as we had shared with you, the investment that was made, we don't know what the final cost is yet. That'll come to the city clerk here, hopefully, probably within the next month or so, maybe. Because we paid a certain amount up front that was an estimate, and then they'll true it up at the end. And we had some costs that we paid locally here for their office space. But our return on investment was within 2 years. So if the cost stays relatively around the number that we saw based on this population number, we should be under 2 years with that return on investment. So we're ready in 2026, depending on when the DOT, Iowa DOT has that certified number of our updated population, and then adjusting our revenue and road use tax fund. We should, we're in 2026 now. We should, by the end of 27, or at least into the early part of 2028, have made up that investment. So it was, we got it done. It took a little bit of work with the federal shutdown and a whole lot of other things happening in the second half of last year. But we are there. Other projects too, next week will be substantial completion, the final kind of punch through list and walk through for phase 2 renovations downstairs, and furniture will be getting installed. Also next week, middle of next week, we'll start the parking lot renovations. So mostly the concrete work at first, and then hopefully by the end of this month, the asphalt millings of the north 2/3. We're going to keep the library open, or at least that's our goal, to keep the library open the entire time we're doing the parking lot renovations. That's why we're doing it in 2 phases. Depending on weather, of course, rain tonight would, if we were in the middle of it, would set us back a little bit. Hopefully by the middle of May, to be completed with the parking lot renovation, middle to late May, and then have folks moving everybody back in by late May. A few of us may start moving down there that are here, Pete, Molly, myself, here at the end of this month or early in May. So moving right along. Also, last thing I wanted to mention is a legislative update. Yesterday, the Senate passed their version of property tax reform, but it also had a substantial amendment to it on the floor that was adopted. It was a bipartisan vote, 41-4. And actually, the 4 that opposed was a mixture of Republicans and Democrats, which was interesting. So the amendment, which is still being reviewed and processed, and the League of Cities is looking at even adjusting the financial model that we just released a couple weeks ago, which is always what happens with these models. We had it happen about 3 times last session with some changes. Now, the changes that were, I will tell you, that were included in the bill were definitely some things within the amendment, things that the League of Cities and cities teams throughout the state were advocating for. And so I think Senator Dawson, who is the floor manager of the bill, would tell you that he appreciates how cities have come to the table with ideas. And I think that's getting reflected in his amendment. There's definitely some elements to that where he was listening. Definitely some things that are going to still be challenging for all cities in Iowa, including Clive. There's some components of that amendment is a little bit of a nod to some of the pieces that the House has in their bill, particularly related to TIF. There are some pretty extensive changes to TIF in this amendment in terms of eliminating the perpetual TIF that doesn't have an end date, eliminating the school foundational levy as a part of future tax increment financing agreements, and some other restrictions. But the school districts can voluntarily agree to add those into TIF deals in the future. I just picking on Matt in the back of the room. But so there's still some processing. I think the development community is still processing that and evaluating that. I know the League of Cities Governmental Affairs team is definitely engaging with the business and development folks of how do they feel about, because they've been the ones carrying the water for the most part on a lot of the TIF discussions down at the State House, whereas the cities have been focused on the property tax portion of a lot of these discussions. So lots to unpack. They all went home pretty much today, so there wasn't any more work the rest of this week, but we'll see what that holds for the House next week if they are going to take up that bill. So we're taking a look at it ourselves and what it means. It would change the residential rollback from the current 46% that was as a part of this adopted budget you approved tonight, stepping it up to 65% over a couple of years, reestablishing the multifamily property tax class, which was mainly apartment buildings, some connected rented structures up to 80%, and then moving commercial all the way up to 100% from the 90 that it's at today. There's still some tax credits. The homestead tax credit turns into an exemption. There is still some components for those that are over the age of 65, but the fully unencumbered portion that was in Senator Dawson's original bill, where if you have your mortgage paid off and you're over 65, you don't pay anything in property tax, that provision was removed. That was one very large thing that the cities were advocating for removal. But there is a step up tax exemption that if you're in your 60s, it's a 60% exemption, 70s, 70%, 80%, 80%, and if you're over the age of 100% exemption for taxes. So that is still in the bill. So the big question now is what are every indication that we've heard is no negotiations are still ongoing So not necessarily that the House has agreed to all these provisions and the governor has kind of saddled her ideas and components into the House bill. And so how that all is going to play out, we should know here in the next week or so in the session. So we think anyway, there's still the budget to finalize, and we haven't heard much on the pipeline discussion either, in eminent domain. So those are probably the three big topics that are still hanging out there with property tax here before the session's over. But anyway, just wanted to give you all a legislative update. We'll share more information as we get it. And I've got some, I'm sure I know the league will be sending out some things tomorrow as well. So we'll share that with you. But that's all I have, Your Honor, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Matt?
Who won the March Madness bracket?
I did not.
You did not win.
I was first place all the way up to the very, very last game. And one of our librarians won for the second year in a row. Not the same librarian, but the last two have been, watch out for those library folks, man. They know their sports.
It's impressive.
Jumped with Michigan winning. It didn't matter, actually, Michigan or UConn. She would have won either way. She had two brackets that were or would have been winners. So for those of you, the staff that are on the recording, the staff has a friendly NCAA pool that all the staff, a good chunk of the staff participate in. And the first time ever that I might have won, I was first from the very start of the tournament and then lost right at the end. So
Totally over
This
it.
guy's
I'm totally over
feelings
it.
down there, isn't he?
Totally over it.
Kind of bitter.
Kind of processing out
and
loud.
also the fact is the particular staff person was rubbing it into me the day she knew she was going to win, because it was Michigan and UConn in the final, and I'm still not talking to her at this current time.
I think when you say her, you mean the Queen of March. I
Yeah,
think that's
is that what she's calling herself?
That's what she's calling herself. Yeah, Queen of March.
Ted, before we go, do you have a reminder to our council members for anything?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We need to get the city manager reviews in, so please get those back to me as soon as you can. I appreciate it. So far, we have the one overachiever, our mayor, who's already resubmitted it. So,
I wasn't fishing for that.
yeah, I know.
That's what it sounded like.
Anything else for the good of the order this evening? Hearing none, we'll adjourn at 8:00.